Hi everyone, I'm back from my little road trip. Dara, Killian, Kieran, myself and Nathan went up to Melbourne and we stayed for a few days and we had an absolutely lovely time. In fact, we had such a good time we stayed an extra night because we didn't want to come home. But I just wanted to talk to you for a minute about travelling. So we always take everything with us when we go travelling with our little ones. I think it's so important. You've got to remember, the first time a baby is sleeping outside their own environment can be when they have an accident. So the room might be too cold or the room might be too hot, or you might decide to sleep them in a cot that's been provided by the hotel, which isn't safe enough. Some cots are, some cots aren't. You might get there and you might discover that they don't have any cots. So the hotel might tell you that you can hire a crib at the hotel, but then you get to the hotel and you can't hire a crib because they don't have any cribs available. Or you might get there and discover that you've forgotten your blankets and you've left them at home. I beg you to please consider travelling with your baby, what you bring with you. I always bring everything. The travel cot that I recommend is the Baby Bjorn Porter cot. Yes, it is expensive, but you can't put a price on your baby's life. And it is the best travel cot on the market. I have always taken that with me with my boys. I open it up and I pop the blankets into it. I was looking around because I'm in the shop and I could see a courier van, but we've got new next door neighbours, so the courier van's going there, not coming here. So I always take the travel cot and I open up the travel cot and I fold my blankets and I put them in, because when you go away by airplane, the travel cot goes normally as a free piece of luggage for the infant, so I've always popped my blankets in. And it's just so important, and it's also, if you can afford it, it's a really good idea to have a second lot of blankets so that you can have one lot of blankets at home and one lot of blankets packed. Because often we have just got to where we're going and gone, oh no, we forgot to take the blankets off the baby's bed. So if you can, it's a good idea. Or on your last night at home, use the sleeping bag that your baby might have grown out of and pack the correct size, and use some towels instead of blankets so you can have the blankets packed, and so on. Now, if you're travelling with your baby, I will take a couple of questions for people who are travelling with their babies. So let's see. The first question is, I'm travelling in 2 weeks from Adelaide to Italy. So Brodie, you haven't really asked a question, but you've said you're travelling. So I've travelled to Italy with my little boys. We went to Italy and they were page boys a few years ago, but they were bigger, they weren't babies. But I have travelled to France and Italy when they are babies. Now, the best thing to do is to get your child on a routine before you leave. So pop them on the routine before you leave so that they feel safe and secure and you know what routine they're on. And then when you go on the airplane, you just have to, a long haul flight like that to Italy, you just do your best. You just try to stick to the routine, but when you get on the plane, it's often nighttime. Just try to stick to the routine. Make sure they're nice and warm. Remember that the blankets the airline gives you might be polyester, so try and bring your own blankets. And you might have to bring extra feeds for them. So if you're breastfeeding, you might have to feed them extra breastfeeds on the plane. If you're formula feeding, bring extra formula with you for the plane. Bring bottled water for the airplane so you know that it's sterile, clean water. And if you're feeding them solids, bring extra pouches of food for the airplane, because you might just find that you just have to feed them, even if it's just to entertain them while they're on the plane, to kill some time. When you get to your destination, you get on the routine when you get there. So when you're on the airplane, if you're out of routine, don't worry. When you get to the destination you're going to, you start on the routine from day one, as soon as you get there, and they will very quickly fall into the routine. The good news is, Brodie, I've always found that going in that direction, it's quite easy to get them on the routine when you get there. Coming back is the more difficult, and it's better for it to be more difficult when you're at home in your home environment rather than when you're away travelling and trying to enjoy yourself. So normally going that direction, Brodie, is quite easy to get them on the routine when you get there, so you should be okay going in that direction. Now let me see what other questions we've got. Brodie also says, I bought the travel cot you recommend. I tried Ruby in it as a trial and she slept solid. Perfect. Now the thing is as well, Brodie, when you go away, if it's really hot and humid where you're staying, if she sweats a little bit, what you can do is you can unzip the mattress and take that bit of cardboard-ish stuff that's in the mattress out, which can stop the sweating. That seems to cause them to sweat if it's a very, very warm place. Now, what else have you said? You've said she's also starting solids this week, so I had to buy squeeze pouches for over there. Yes, I would bring your pouches with you, and remember, if you bring them with you, your suitcase will be heavier, and on the way back you've got lots of room for shopping, so it's always good. And bring your own, if you're doing any formula, bring your own formula with you as well. Lisa says, hi Tizzie, is your porta cot, would you still recommend one blanket folded in two for tummy sleepers? Yes, Lisa, I actually don't know much about tummy sleepers because it's something I don't recommend. But yes, if you're using a blanket folded in two, yep, you would do the same in the porta cot for a tummy sleeper. I don't think you'd have to go to less. I think it would be much of the same, whether they were tummy sleeping at home in their cot or in the porta cot when you're out. Catherine says, any suggestions for transitioning two kids into the same room 2 years apart? My daughter is 2.5, and you must also have a 6-month-old, roughly. Oh, they will be 2.5 and 6 months. So if you're talking about them sleeping in the same room when you're away on holidays, I would probably be more inclined to put the baby in the room with you while you're on holidays, because a new environment can, as I said, babies can flip to their tummies. It can sometimes not be as safe when you're sleeping out and about, so I would put the 6-month-old in your room when you're away on holidays. If you're talking about at home, it's you just decide to do it. You talk to your 2.5-year-old, you tell them that you're doing it, and you don't really need to transition them. You would just start doing it one night. If your 6-month-old is in the same cot, your 6-month-old will be used to the environment of their cot. If they've got all their same bedding and their comforters, you shouldn't have a problem. They should easily move into the room with the 2.5-year-old. Your 2.5-year-old might find it a bit odd or different, but you just need to talk to them about what you're doing. Have we got any other questions on travelling? Karen says, I'm travelling to Hawaii in 2 weeks with a 10-month-old and a 4-year-old. Well, again, the same applies for you. Please bring your own travel cot. Really, really important to bring your own travel cot. Olivia says, do you use the same routine on the new time? Yes. So you do the 7 to 7 routine, and then when you get there, you start at 7 o'clock in the morning. As soon as you get there, you start the routine. Now, Karen says, Bubs is on your routine, travelling in the afternoon around 5, so bringing the 2.5 tog and blankets, hoping she will sleep on the way there, not concerned about my 4-year-old. Yeah, she should sleep on the way. Bring your blankets, bring your sleeping bag, and I'm sure you won't have any problems. And if you do, you just get on routine when you get there. And as I said, normally going places, when you get there, it's easier. It's when you get home afterwards, it's slightly harder to adjust them back. But you're at home, so that will work. It's easier at home. Claire says, I'm going on a weekend away soon to the Blue Mountains, and I don't know if the house will have a heater. I can't bring mine with me, so what would you recommend I do for bedding layers? Baby is unswaddled. I would recommend you get there early and you get a heater, or you go to the shop, buy a heater if where you're staying is going to be cold. I would find out what temperature it's going to be overnight, and if it's going to be cold, I really would get a heater. It's really dangerous if babies get cold. They flip to their tummies, and it's really, really dangerous. So I'm sure wherever you're staying, they would be able to provide you with a heater. And if not, you might be able to go and pick one up or borrow one, or put a post on Facebook seeing if you can borrow one off somebody. I'm sure we'd have a fan near Blue Mountains who might lend you one. Anyway, I really wouldn't risk sleeping them in a cold room because it can be dangerous. So I'm going to leave it there with the questions. I just wanted to show you what's in our bargain box, in our warehouse box. I spotted this earlier. I spotted by the way, our shop isn't always this dark. I just turn the lights off above because I get this big halo when I'm doing my talks. And I didn't want you to see the big halo. Now, I said to the girls earlier, what's all this stuff in the warehouse box? So in our warehouse sale section on the website, we've got this 1-tog sleeping bag, but the label's on backwards. So that's reduced because the label's on backwards. So it's on the warehouse sale page. We've also found 2 sets of these sheets, which we thought were out of stock. So the lucky last 2, a grey and a pink set of elephant sheets. And there's also one of these bath towel, which are really good for newborn babies, and there's a couple of little newborn bodysuits in the sale section of the warehouse. So make sure you check out the website warehouse sale section. I'll pop a link up in a minute. And as I said, when you're traveling, please, please, please bring your own porta cot and blankets. We have just been away. We brought a mattress for Kieran because he's big enough to not be in a cot. He's over 3, he's a boy, he's a big boy. We brought a mattress because we were going by car, and it was so good having all his bedding from home. We got the best sleep. All of us were in one room. We had a lovely holiday, and it was so good having our own bedding and the security knowing that Kieran was going to sleep all night, which he did, in his sleeping bag and his 16 blankets and his sheet folded in 2. We used to do 15 blankets. He's 3 now, and the extra layer, you know, when you're folding blankets, that one extra layer, we say 15, but you can go to the 16 if it works better for folding the blankets. And he slept like a trooper. So did they all, although they had a couple of pretty late nights, which always happens when you're on holidays, but we had a lovely time. Okay, thanks everybody. I'll put some links up.